day and welcome to another episode of Drew's Book Review. So today we are going to be talking about book 13 from the Wheel of Time, The Towers of Midnight. So if you are interested in what I have to say about The Towers of Midnight, stay tuned. That is coming right up. Alright, so The Towers of Midnight by Brandon Sanderson and Robert Jordan, book 13 from the Wheel of Time. So if you've been following along with my review series on this, great, glad to have you here back for book 13. Definitely become one of my favorite fantasy series of all time. This is of course my third time through the Wheel of Time, and of course Brandon Sanderson finishing this off, also one of my favorite authors of all time, Brandon Sanderson. So there are several key things within this book that are certainly really important to the overall story of the Wheel of Time and what's going on with that. So there's some key elements to kind of focus on within the story that I just want to touch on, and some few things that I find that I really enjoyed with this particular story, and some things that maybe could have been better, I guess, in a lot of ways, but overall just really enjoyed this particular book and what's going on. So if you've been following along, if you read up to this point in the series, you know that there's been these areas of the world where it seems the power, the source, Sidene, Sidar, just doesn't seem to work. Weaves fall apart. Things aren't working the way they're supposed to be working within the world. We're having the Ashaman who have been struggling to make gateways, and we've got Perrin who's trying to figure out what this problem is and where it's going. So if we know anything about Perrin, you know that Perrin is a wolf brother, so he has the ability to communicate with and talk to wolves as we go through this story. In fact, it's one of those things where he's absolutely terrified of becoming full wolf. Way back in the previous book, we learned about what happens when you give yourself over to the wolf in its entirety. We met a character named Gnome who's basically no longer human. He is nothing but a wolf trapped in a cage, and he's literally gone full-fledged wolf. And Perrin is terrified that if he gives himself over to this, but he's having to face this challenge in order for him to discover what's going on and why the Ashaman can't seem to make these gateways. He has to go into the wolf dream and confront Slater, and it's within this wolf dream that he discovers what is going on, and that there's this basically this dome of this field covering a certain area, preventing the use of the source or the power of Sidene or Sidar in any effective way. And this is where Perrin discovers what's going on, and he must go into the wolf dream to try to get Slater so that he might be able to stop this from happening. Try not to get too spoilery as to how that happens or what's causing that to happen, but definitely you'll have to go into the book and take a read of that, see what's going on with that, and whether or not he successfully stops Slayer within this volume of this book. But I can tell you that things come to a head where there's this massive and epic battle scene in Tarvallen, with this whole situation of channeling not working in the world of dreams, or the wolf dream as Perrin has come to know it. And there's this massive epic battle within the dream itself. In the world of dreams, Teleran Riyadh, or the wolf dream as Perrin refers to it as, it all kind of comes to a clash in Tarvallen, where Perrin meets up with Egwene and other Aesir, or rather, they don't plan to meet up, but they kind of come together in this epic battle in Tarvallen World of Dreams, which is just really, really awesome. I loved how that played out in this book. I thought that was really, really good, really well done. Really, certainly added to the action adventure, and I thought it was done really well. It's probably one of my favorite scenes and sequences throughout this book is this battle at Tarvallen in the World of Dreams, which I thought was just really, really awesome. Kudos to that. Everything about this is just so good in general. One aspect that's really interesting with this is Hopper. Now, I don't know if I've talked much about Hopper in previous videos, but Hopper is basically Perrin's wolf guide. He is Perrin's mentor within this world of dreams, and Hopper's always encouraging him to, you know, embrace his inner wolf essentially in the wolf dream, but Perrin is always afraid or hesitant to do so. So Hopper tries to encourage, say, hey, look, the last hunt, which is the wolf's term for the last battle, is coming. You need to be prepared for this. And you need to be willing and able to embrace this part of your nature if you're going to be able to survive. And this is so important. But Perrin, of course, is constantly hesitant to do this. But it's through Hopper that he learns that embracing the wolf is not necessarily a bad thing. And while there is a balance there, he needs to be more open to that idea. And he needs to stop being so fearful of becoming all wolf. So this particular book does seem to focus a lot on Perrin and his storyline within it. But that's really good, because I love Perrin. He's definitely probably one of my favorite characters from this series. Perrin is just... I love the fact that he communicates with wolves. I love how that characterization is played out. So one of the things that Perrin had to go through is the trial. If you're a Wheel of Time fan, you know what the trial is. But for that aspect of this, it really didn't last that long. You know, I've read this book 3 times already. You'd think I would have remembered just how much this trial was in the book, but I'd actually, on my 3rd reread, I'm thinking, wow, that was actually really short. That did not last long at all. That was very quick resolution on the trial. And it really felt that maybe we could have had more to that trial aspect of the story. That's kind of my one drawback there. I mean, if there's one thing that both Sanderson and Jordan are known for, particularly Jordan, it's having a lot of things drawn out at a really, really slow burn. I think if we took some of the slow burn out of this book and we added in more extensive trial scenes and kind of more storylines surrounding that trial, that would have been much better, I think, in that particular aspect of it. But, you know, other than that, I would say this book was pretty awesome all around, and I really enjoyed it with respect to the whole Perrin storyline and his learning to accept his inner wolf. I thought was really, really important and a really big achievement, essentially, for Perrin to overcome that hurdle. One of the other scenes that I really loved about this book that I thought was just awesome is there's this scene where Perrin is forging a new hammer. And now part of Perrin's struggle has always been, he has been basically raised up as Lord of the Two Rivers. And he doesn't want this title. He doesn't want to be nobility. He doesn't want to be a leader. And he's constantly, throughout the entire series, been rejecting this idea. He's been telling people, no, burn those banners. I'm not your lord. I'm not your leader. Just stop it. That's not who I am. I'm just a blacksmith. And he's just been stuck in this idea that he's just a blacksmith. Well, Perrin, you got to accept the fact that you're not just a blacksmith. That's just not the way it works. You're not just a blacksmith anymore. You've got to accept that. But he hasn't. But this scene where he's forging this new hammer, and he's got his old hammer, of course, and he's forging the new hammer. This kind of coincides with the acceptance he comes to in the wolf dream about his wolf nature, but also forging of this new hammer. It's not just any hammer. He goes into the smithy because he needs to express some frustration. He's under a lot of stress and he just needs to get it out. So he goes in the forge and he starts hammering and he starts building something. He doesn't even know what he's building when he starts, but as this comes together, as the hammer grows and it becomes forged and the different parts come together and this new hammer is forged and it's wrought with the power. The Ashen Mon come in and they start infusing this hammer, Molinar, with the power, with Saidin. It becomes this power forged weapon and it's being made anew. A new hammer, a new symbol, a new significance. It's bigger than his old hammer. It's more powerful than his old hammer. What I really love about this scene is it really is symbolic of him casting aside the old hammers, like casting aside his old self, throwing that away and doing away with it and reforging himself anew into something new, into a new leader. It is at this point that Perrin accepts the mantleship of leadership and recognizes that this is in fact who he is. But he had to reforge himself and his identity. And this forging of this new hammer is kind of symbolic of the forging of his new identity and his acceptance of that identity. And I just love the way that was done. Just awesome. I absolutely loved it, and definitely probably that scene alone, of all the scenes in this book, that scene and what it represented and how that came together was just so well done for me. I love that scene. By far my favorite scene from this book. And I think probably one of my favorite moments from this series is when Perrin finally accepts the mantle of leadership as a reforged individual with that new reforged identity, represented by the very hammer that is forged with that power, and the infusion of the power of Saidin, the infusion of this power-wrought weapon. The infusion of the power of the weapon is an infusion of power, and Perrin in his position as leader and lord of his people, and it was just so well done. I love that aspect of it so much, and I just love it. Love that aspect of it. So while this story is mostly focused on Perrin, there is one other sideline story going on within this book, and that is the story of Mat. He has to go to the Tower of Genji and is with Tom and with Noel, and he is going there to basically find a way to rescue Moraine. That's right, Moraine's still alive. But you know what, if you haven't read this far into this series and you're watching this video, I'm sorry to spoil it for you, but this was kind of known going into this book, that Moraine wasn't really dead, that she was trapped in the realm of the snakes and the foxes, the Aelfin and the Eelfin, within the Tower of Genji. And we already knew that Mat was going in there to rescue Moraine, along with, of course, Tom, Marilyn, and Noel. We already knew this was going to happen going into this book. So I'm sorry if that spoiled it for you, but we kind of knew that going into this book. So, you know, hopefully you've read up to this point. But that's kind of the other sideline, the other storyline within this particular book, and how that all kind of fits together within this story. So that aspect of it was, you know, entertaining to read at the very least. Again, something that was wrapped up pretty quickly. I mean, we all knew the setup for that was that, you know, you could be trapped in there forever, but of course Mat has his luck. Though it would have been nice to see a little bit more of that story, maybe kind of have that stretched out just a little bit, because that kind of felt like it was wrapped up really quick for me as well. But I mean, other than that, like, it was good, it was fun, it was adventurous. You know, the truth about Noel's identity comes out within this storyline as well, which, you know, you may have already known who that was, but if you didn't, you certainly find out in this book for sure. And one other positive I wanted to quickly add for this book is I love how it kind of has those moments of humor within it, those quick little nips of humor within it that just make it really enjoyable. Like, just as an example, one aspect or one scene of a conversation between Moraine and Mat and Tom is, you know, Tom is telling Moraine that Mat's been too busy marrying Seanchan empresses. Moraine's like, wait, what? You married the Seanchan empress? Matt's like, it was kind of an accident. To which Moraine replies, how do you marry an empress accidentally? Like, seriously, WTF, man. Like, how do you accidentally marry an empress? Of course, Mat just says, well, they got some strange customs. So there is those little scenes and dynamics within this book that kind of have that bit of humor. And of course, anytime Mat's involved, I mean, essentially Mat is essentially the comedic relief for this book when all said and done. I mean, let's face it, that's what Mat is. He provides some comic relief throughout the series as a whole. But I just love that little exchange. Like, how do you accidentally marry an empress? Like, seriously. Like, who marries an empress accidentally? That just seems crazy. Seriously, WTF, man. Anyway, at the end of the day, you know, The Towers of Midnight is just a good, entertaining read, and I really, really enjoyed it for what it is. And I'm having so much fun going through a reread here of this book, and a reread of The Wheel of Time for the third time. And of course, now I'll be picking up the Memory of Light, the final book in the Wheel of Time, not including the little prequel New Spring, which of course I will get to. But yeah, those are my thoughts here on The Towers of Midnight and what I'm thinking on this. So, you know, as always, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram. That'll be linked to my Linktree link below. You can also join me on my Discord, which will be linked below. And if you do like what I do here and you want to support this channel, you can do so for as little as $1 per month on my Patreon, which will be linked below as well. You'll get early access to my videos if you sign up on Patreon, and a few other perks like maybe getting to pick my next read, that kind of thing. And if I start getting enough patrons, I'll see if I can do some little patron extras, which will be posted there. We do appreciate even the likes, comments, and subscribe. So again, if you like this video, hit that like button, hit that bell button if you want to know when my next video goes up. Thanks again so much for watching, and until next time, we will see you on the next episode of Drew's Book Reviews. Until then, keep on reading. Bye!